So you're staring at System.io's automation section, wondering if you should build a rule or a workflow. And honestly, the platform doesn't make it obvious which one you actually need. I get this question almost daily from my design build launch students, and it's driving people to avoid automation altogether, which is crazy because you're missing out on some serious time-saving magic. The truth is, once you understand what each tool actually does, the choice becomes obvious. We're going to walk through both automation rules and automation workflows inside System, and I'll show you some real examples. And by the end, you'll know exactly which automation tool to reach for every single time. Welcome to the System.io automation series. Let's go ahead and dive in. So here we are inside the System.io dashboard, and you'll see in the Automations tab, we have two different options here, rules and workflows. And there's not a whole lot of hint around which one you should actually be picking, right? So a lot of people will end up clicking around randomly and just getting more and more frustrated. So I'm about to save you hours of trial and error and tech headaches. We're going to look at both, we'll see them in action, and you'll walk away knowing exactly which tool fits your situation. But first, I want to talk about why picking the wrong one will actually mess up your entire funnel setup. Because here's what can happen. Your automation either doesn't work at all, or works a little too well and ends up bombarding people with 17 emails you didn't intend to send. I've seen people build a workflow when they needed a simple rule and it broke their entire sequence. Or try to use rules for really complex stuff and then wonder why nothing is actually connecting properly. So this choice is going to affect how smoothly your funnels run and how much time you spend fixing things later. The good news is, once you get this right, automation inside System is going to become your best friend. So let's start with the automation rules. This is the simple one that a lot of people should be using way more often. So again, when we go to the automations drop down here and just click rules, it's going to take you to this page. And the way I want you to think about rules is like if-then statements. They're dead simple. You have a trigger and you have an action. You can kind of think of this like a light switch. You flip it on and the light comes on, and that's it. So here we have an example in this account already. If we open up this automation rule, we see that when a tag is added, then an email gets sent. If tag added, then send email. If this, then that. That's it. You flip the light switch, the light comes on. Another example might be if someone purchases your course, then they get added to your customer list with a buyer tag and they get granted access to a bonus. So you can have more than one trigger and more than one action. And the way that we need to think about this is that if any of these triggers happen, then all of these actions will happen. So the trigger side is kind of like an or statement. If this or that or that or that, any of those triggers, then we're going to move over to the action side, and it's not going to be an or anymore. It's going to be an and. Then do this and this and this and this. Okay, so that's how we really want to think about that, because you can have as many triggers and actions as you want in one rule, but we have to know that anything we add over to this trigger section is going to get the same group of all of those actions afterwards. So the key thing to keep in mind here is the timing. The second that this trigger happens, or any of these triggers happen, all of those other things will happen. It's not going to check any conditions. There's not going to be any delay. It's going to be, like we said, as simple as flicking that light switch. So if we come out of this rule and go ahead and create a new one, you'll see that you have the option to add a whole bunch of triggers here. We're going to do a deep dive on all of the available automation triggers in next week's video, but you can pick one or as many as you want of these triggers and add them in. So we can do tag added, when this tag gets added, or whenever they subscribe to this blog form, and it's going to be our blog home layout. Then we're going to do all of these different things. Send them an email. And we're also going to subscribe them to a follow-up campaign. So there's all sorts of different things that we can do here, but as soon as any of these happen, all of these are going to happen. And that's how automation rules work. By the way, if this is clearing up any of the automation confusion for you, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I break down system tech like this every single week. Now let's take a look at automation workflows instead. So we'll come back to this menu over here and click workflows. Now workflows, these are kind of like entire automated thought processes. Think more of a smart home system and not a light switch. It can make multiple decisions based on something that happens. And so if we come in here and we create a workflow, we'll have this be our test workflow, and then open this workflow up. You'll see that we can add a trigger here, and this could be very similar to what we were doing before. And we can even add more than one trigger like you could for an automation rule. So let's have any of these tags. And then we're going to add an action. But we don't just have actions. We also have decisions that we can make and delays. So this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. Now, one of the things that we might want to use this for is, for example, when someone signs up for our lead magnet, maybe we're going to enroll them in that follow-up campaign here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to wait. We want to give them the opportunity to make it all the way through that 5-day follow-up campaign. And at the end of that 5-day follow-up campaign, we're going to check. Do they have the tag that says that they purchased the thing that follow-up campaign was trying to sell them? If they do, then we don't have to do anything. But if they didn't yet purchase, then maybe we want to do something else here. And we can add another action, and we can send them a personal email saying, hey, I noticed this, that, and the other thing. So there's all sorts of things that we could choose to do that get way more complicated in terms of waiting and checking and waiting again and checking again. And we can have as many of these branches out here as we want. And so this is a lot more of an intelligent automation system, but also a little bit more complicated. So this is really going for that power and losing a little bit of the simplicity. But when you're creating more sophisticated funnels, workflows are really where the magic happens. Now, I want to just say that there is a huge mistake that people sometimes make because workflows sound exciting and really powerful. Don't use a workflow for something simple. You're just making life harder for yourself. Okay, workflows are really for multiple decisions and multiple paths like that smart home system. And using workflows for simple stuff is total overkill. You can try to build out this whole fancy 47-step workflow when really you needed 2 different simple automation rules and that was it. Right? So we don't need to make it more complicated. We want to pick the simplest solution for whatever it is that we're trying to build. So my rule for this is if you can explain what you want in 1 sentence, when this happens, do that, you're going to use a rule. If you need to say, when this happens, wait, and then check if this other thing happens, and then maybe do this or that, now it's workflow time. So now that you know the difference, let me ask you something. What are you going to do with these automations inside System? I would love to hear from you in the comments. Go ahead and drop a note and let me know what kind of automations are you working on, and are there any automation features inside System that you would love to see me do a future video on? And if you just had that light bulb moment about rules versus workflows, you definitely need to subscribe because this is exactly what I do. I take the tech BS and the DIY chaos out of System.io and make it actually make sense. So hit subscribe below so you don't miss when I drop the next breakdown that'll save you hours of tech frustration. I'll see you in our trigger deep dive next week. And in the meantime, stop overthinking it and go build something. See you soon.